Okay, so today we are doing my midweek vlog for the second week of July 2020, and it's going to be an interesting one, guys, so prepare for a bit of a bumpy ride, but we'll get there in the end. I'm going to first start off talking about this book, the third book in the Hunger Games series, Mockingjay. Now, according to my schedule, by now I should have finished this book. But I went into this book with a ton of reservations. To give you a bit of an idea of my reservations in a spoiler-free way, I read the first book in the series, which is right here, right by me, The Hunger Games, and I absolutely loved it. I went in blind, knew nothing about it, and walked away giving it 5 stars, thought it was absolutely incredible. I went into the second book with not necessarily expectations, but things that I actually really wanted to see. I was so invested in this world that I was incredibly excited to see something that I thought I was pretty much assured to see. And then partway through book 2, there was a twist that occurred that ensured I was not going to see what I wanted to see in book 2. And yeah, that annoyed me. Then at the end of book 2, there is another massive twist that occurs that made me really apprehensive to pick up book 3 because I didn't like where things were seemingly headed. So I went into book 3, as I've said quite a few times now, rather anxious, but plan to have it finished by now. I said that I would DNF this book if I did not like it. I got about a quarter of the way through the book, and while it was doing the thing that I didn't want it to do, but that I assumed that it would do, I was comfortable with it, and I was flowing through it. It was fine, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just get through it, and I don't know, see what I give it in the end. I'll probably give it 2 stars or something like that, but we'll see how we go. I got to the halfway mark of this book and I realized I don't want to keep going. So I DNF'd this book. Originally. I have since come up with a plan that I've devised where I'm going to upgrade DNFing this book to shelving this book, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading it, I believe from tomorrow onwards. I'm going to start it completely fresh, and I'm going to really take my time with this book. I'm going to be doing something I haven't done for a long time, which is reading more than one book at once. So tomorrow I'll be continuing on with the book that I'm currently reading, and then alongside that book I'm going to read little bits of this book, and it's going to take me a long time to get through it. I've scheduled 8 days to read this book, so I mean a very little bit of this book each day for 8 days to get through it. But I will read it because I feel that there's nothing wrong with what I had read so far. The book is... It's a good book. It's just it was something that I didn't want to happen in this world, but I'm going to go into my small snippets from tomorrow without the expectations, or rather with the expectations of what I already know has happened for the first half of the book. So I want to go into this book with a more critical mind, knowing that I'm not going to get out of this book what I want to get out of the book, but more judging it for the book itself rather than what I wanted to get out of it. Does that make sense? I hope so. So, as I said, I did get halfway through before I DNF'd it, but I've upgraded it to shelving it, and we're restarting this book with snippets from tomorrow. But now let's talk about the second book that I'm reading, and this book has no chance of being DNF'd, and part of the reason why I DNF'd this book is because I couldn't wait to start this next book, and that is Stuart Turton's The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. You guys... I went into this book and it took me, I'll be honest, it took me a hot minute to get used to Stuart Turton's writing style. This is an adult mystery. I don't know what I called it in my TBR video, but I think I went in here thinking it was going to be written as a young adult, but it's not. It's written as an adult book, and it's not that the story's bad. In fact, I love the story. It's just that a lot of the time I struggle with the writing style of adult books because they're and I can't really blame authors because every author has their own unique writing style, and with an adult book you have a lot more freedom to go to certain places, and the content that you write about, you can go obviously much further because it's an adult book. But generally speaking, my biggest problem with adult books is getting on board with the writing style because it's not as easy to read, or it's not as basic. Quite frankly, I much prefer to read a basic writing style that is not flowery, has no metaphors, has no similes, is not written in an adult way. Just tell me what you want to tell me and keep it plain and basic as far as the writing style is concerned, so that I can fully immerse myself in that world without worrying that I'm not going to understand something. I'm going to come through a number, a number of words that I'm not going to understand what they are, and I'm going to have to look up what they mean and all that kind of stuff. So I have read adult books in the past that the writing style was so tough to handle that I have DNF'd them. I have read adult books in the past that were so dry that even if I finished them, they received a very low rating from me. And I think a lot of that had to do with a drier writing style. In this case, though, it was very different to other adult books that I've read that I did not enjoy. An example of an adult book that I did enjoy is right up here, Mistborn's The Final Empire. If you've seen my favourite books for the first half of 2020, that is in fact my favourite book for 2020 so far, and it is an adult fantasy, so adult high fantasy with hard magic systems, so it is very complex, but I still loved it. With this book, it just took me a hot minute to wrap my head around Stuart Turton's writing style, but once I had wrapped my head around the writing style, I really started enjoying this book. I was really hoping that I would, because I've had books before where I know the premise going in and I'm really excited for it, and then the execution falls kind of flat for me, but it didn't with this book. Oh yeah, you should probably know where I'm up to. So I'm there. So this is the back of the book. So I'm about 100 or so pages, maybe just over 100 pages, I would say, away from finishing this book, and I'm done with my reading for today, so I'll finish it off tomorrow alongside Mockingjay. It's going to be interesting when I talk to you guys about Mockingjay, but we'll get there another day. But with this book, once I got used to the writing style, I really started enjoying it. So the premise of this book is that a guy by the name of Aiden something, I don't remember his surname, Bishop, he ends up at this mansion. I thought he ended up at a party, but I think the best way to say it is that he ends up at a mansion, and he has no idea what's going on. In fact, from the very first page, so I don't consider this a spoiler because it's just the first page, he's screaming out a name. He's screaming out the name Anna, and he doesn't know why he's screaming it out. He's just screaming out, Anna, 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 and he doesn't know why he's screaming her name, so he just keeps screaming her name because he knows there's obviously a reason, even though he doesn't know what it is. That's not all he doesn't know. So it turns out, and again, this is part of the premise, so it's not a spoiler, that Aiden has been placed into this mansion to solve a murder that has occurred, and it's kind of like a murder mystery mixed with Groundhog Day, in that the day will continually repeat itself until someone solves the murder, and whoever solves the murder will be able to escape this mansion that no one loves. I mean, I'm 3/4 of the way through the book and I can't find one character that actually loves being there, no matter what their role is, like whether they are a servant or a nobleman or whatever they are. No one seems to like being there, but anyway. Um, so and the other thing, aside from the day repeating itself over and over until someone solves the murder mystery, Aiden and a couple of others who are also playing this game, if you will, wake up every day in the body of another person that is there at that mansion. So one day he wakes up as a guest, the next day he'll wake up as the butler, the next day he might wake up as a relative to the person who's killed. So that makes it even more exciting, and I'm just loving this. If I were to give this a genre, I would say it absolutely is an adult mystery, but if I were to give it a subgenre, I would say it's an adult mystery fantasy. And the reason that I include fantasy in this book, even though it's a subgenre, is because of the fact that one, the days do repeat themselves, and two, Aiden wakes up in the body of a new person every single day, which is not something that you tend to see in reality. So, but oh my gosh, I am loving this. And with 100 pages left to go, I'm going to finish this book tomorrow. I'm going to have this murder mystery solved. I'm going to know who killed the person. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've read mysteries before. In fact, right here, I have The Girl on the Train. And that is a book that I read a couple of months ago. I felt that book was okay. It had some decent moments, but it was the ending that made it work for me. Not so with The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I have enjoyed myself pretty much all the way through this book. I've been really excited and very much excitedly running alongside our protagonist in trying to work out who murdered this person. And because Aiden is not a detective, Aiden is, for want of a better term, he's just a random human that was selected to play this game, we're able to have a lot of fun experiencing this alongside him. Whereas if you read a murder mystery, generally speaking, with an actual detective, for me, I find that really boring. But this has just been amazing. I was really hoping it would be because the premise was so good, and I was not let down. So I am incredibly excited to finish off this book tomorrow, and provided the ending does not let me down, I will be giving this book 5 stars because it has just been such an enjoyable read. Despite the fact that it took me a hot minute to get used to Stuart Turton's writing style, it has been such an enjoyable read for me, and yay, I'm so happy that I read this book. Shout out to Murphy Napier, who didn't necessarily recommend this book, but she was talking about this book on her channel. When she read it, she started off enjoying it, and then as she went on, she was enjoying it less and less. So I can't say she recommended the book, but because it was advertised on her channel and because she explained the premise, that's what got me excited. That's what got me to read this book. So thank you, Murphy, for having the book on your channel. And unlike Murphy, I'm really loving this book. So I can't wait to find out what happens tomorrow. So let's discuss how the rest of this week is going to go and what I'll be discussing with you guys, if all goes to plan, for my end of week reading vlog. So obviously tomorrow I am going to finish this book. It will be done and dusted, and it will be, I will give it a rating on Goodreads, and so you can check that out. My Goodreads link is always in the description of every single video, so you can feel free to check that out. And I may or may not do a review on this book. I'm questioning whether or not to do a review on this book at this point. I'll see how I go. Obviously, alongside that, I'm going to be reading my snippets of this book of Mockingjay, and we'll see how that goes. Again, as I said, I'm going back into this book without any expectation other than knowing that this book is headed in a direction that I don't want to go in, but I just want to judge the book for the book itself rather than judging the book on what I wanted the book to be. So I should read Misery one day. I mean, there have been books that have really let me down that I think reading Misery by Stephen King, for those of you who have read the book or seen the film, you'll understand why. I think reading Misery might be a really good idea for me. So I won't have this finished by the time we get to the end of this week, but I will have it done by the time we get to the end of next week. So in my end of week reading vlog wrap up, I will be able to discuss with you guys where I'm up to with this book and how I'm feeling about wherever it is that I'm up to by that time. Now, on Saturday, I am picking up a book that I am incredibly excited to read because not too long ago, I think a couple of weeks ago in fact, I watched the final episode of this series that has been a rather controversial series, but that I loved because I really appreciated the reason why this series was brought to air. And then I came to find out after just one day wondering, I wonder if this series originated thanks to a book that was written, and I was right, it was. So I am really excited to read this book that was the bones to create season 1 of the show. And so the book and the show have the same title. It is called 13 Reasons Why, and it is by Jay Asher. Now, even though I haven't started reading this book, based off what I've seen from the show, here's what I'm going to say. If any of the following topics are trigger points for you, then I would recommend heading into this book with caution if you are planning on reading it. And they include teen suicide is a massive point that is explored in not only this book but the show as well. Also, teen sexual assault, we can't use the R word on YouTube anymore, but you know the word I'm trying to say, is also a massive topic that is explored. And yeah, physical, mental, psychological abuse, all that kind of stuff is definitely things for teenagers, is definitely things that are very much the light is shone upon in this book and in at least the first season of this show. If this triggers you, I would recommend not picking up the book. For me, the reason why I started watching the show was because I felt that this topic is something that does need a light shone upon it. People need to learn more about it in order to hopefully prevent these things occurring in the future, despite the fact that it is a scripted show. Normally speaking, with this kind of subject matter, it's generally speaking swept under the carpet, and unfortunately, that seems to create more harm than good. So some people really disapprove of the show, and that's why it's controversial, because they say that the show glamorizes suicide. I completely disagree. I think that the show creates teen suicide awareness. And again, even though it's scripted, I think it's done a wonderful thing to shine a light on all these tough situations that teenagers go through that are generally speaking swept under the carpet. Now, last month I read a very hard-hitting book called My Dark Vanessa. I don't have it in my bookshelf at the moment. I do own a copy, but I've lent it out to a friend of mine who is reading it at the moment and saying she's really enjoying it. So I will I will get that back from her once she is done reading that. But yeah, I read that book, and that was a really hard-hitting book to read, but it was a book that was necessary to write for the author, and I can see why, and also for me, very necessary to read. And 13 Reasons Why is a great way to continue on with reading books that aren't necessarily going to be fun to read, but the subject matter is very crucial and very necessary to talk about. So yeah, at this stage I will be reviewing this book regardless of whether I like it or not, and in that review I will include differences between the book and the show, and also talking about the subject matter that the book and the show does bring up, because I think it is incredibly important. But yeah, I've given you guys a very long spiel about that, but all to say that I am going to be reading this book over the course of this weekend, and so this book will be done by the time you see my end of week wrap. It is an incredibly short book. It's 288 pages long, which is only 38 pages over a half tome. So it's really a short book as far as I'm concerned. So it should only take me those 2 days to get through it. But I'm excited to talk to you guys about it, not only in my end of week vlog wrap up, but also to review this book as well. So that is my plan. Tomorrow, I will finish The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. Really looking forward to finding out who committed this murder, getting all those reveals. It's going to be amazing. Alongside that, reading, obviously, this book, Mockingjay, little by little by little by little, over the course of 8 days. So I'll talk to you about where I'm at with my end of week vlog, and then of course over the weekend, as I said, I'm going to read 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. So these are the books that I've discussed in this video, and that is my schedule for the rest of this week. I hope that you guys are doing well, and I hope that you're enjoying what you are reading. And don't think that just because I upgraded this book from DNFing it to shelving it that I don't agree with DNFing. If anything, I'm a major advocate for DNFing. And if you don't know what DNFing stands for, it stands for did not finish. If you don't enjoy a book, put it down and pick up another one. There's no point in torturing yourself with a book that you're not enjoying. But for me, the reason why I want to keep reading this book, or why I want to start this book again, is so that I can view it through the lens of how does this book stand up as a book on its own, rather than how does this book stand up as a book where I have all these expectations of what I want to see in the book. So that's why I'm doing that. But I will leave that there, letting you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Thursday and Sunday with reviews and other videos posted in between, and I'll see you again very soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading. Bye guys. Bye.